Hi folks, Modelling Mark here again. We're on to the cylinder end covers today. We'll start with the non-gland cover because that's the easiest. Now I've put that in a 3-jaw chuck. Now I can turn down the chucking spigot, then I can turn it round to machine the other face. Now I can turn the end cover down to its finished thickness and turn the spigot in to locate it into the cylinder properly. While we're here, we'll take it down to diameter as well. That's the end cover down to its final thickness. Now I can start nibbling away to machine out the spigot. Not the easiest thing to measure, a little bit fiddly, but I managed it in the end. Okay, over to the mill now. I'm using the DRO to drill a 6-hole bolt pattern. As usual, we'll start with the centre drill, followed by a pilot drill and the finished hole to drill clearance holes. Finally, I'll put in a slot drill to spot face the holes. That completes this cover, apart from turning off the chucking spigot, which is a very straightforward operation, so I didn't bother videoing it. Now we'll turn our attention to the gland end cover. Now this is slightly more complicated because we need to machine the features to locate in the cylinder. So that's the small step on the back of the, or the inside of the end cover, and we need to drill and ream the hole for the piston rod, and we need to turn the cylinder cover round and then machine the features for the gland, and all that needs to be perfectly concentric. I'll start by machining the chucking spigot down, then I'll machine the features on this side, drill and ream the hole, then I can turn it round, put the chucking spigot in a collet, and then we can machine the final features, and it should all be nice and concentric because the collets hopefully run true. That's the spigot cleaned up, so we can hold that in the collet. Now I can take the end cover down to thickness. Just a little bit further to go. That'll do for the overall thickness. Now I can machine in the locating spigot where it locates in the cylinder. There's a fair way to go yet. Oh, we're just about there now. And a quick check with the cylinder just to make sure it does fit perfectly, and yep, pleased with that. Now I'll just clean up the chucking spigot It was a little bit uneven where I took the cylinder cover down to the correct thickness. I'll just face off the end as well, so we've got a nice flat end to start the drilling. Now it's the standard process of a centre drill and drilling and reaming out for a 1/8 inch diameter to match the piston rod. Right, now I've put the collet back in the lathe. I've turned the end cover round and held it in the collet. Now I can face off the gland to thickness. Right, now I've transferred the end cover to the mill. I've put the end cover in the vise on parallels, and the gland boss is lined up parallel with the x-axis of the mill. The first task is to drill out the 6-hole bolt pattern using the circle function on the DRO. These are a 7BA clearance hole. As usual, I'll centre drill and drill them out. We're a little bit close to the edge here, so I'm just checking that the drill is going to clear the parallel. This is the final drill, and yet we are mighty close to that parallel, but still, clearance is clearance. I've used an end mill to spot face the holes so that the bolt heads have got a nice smooth surface to land on. The next task is to drill and tap the 2 threaded holes for the gland. We're back at the lathe now, and the cylinder cover is back in the collet chuck, and I'm just taking the diameter down to its finished size. You'll notice that I've also drilled out the hole for the gland. Unfortunately I've got to video this, but it's only drilling a hole. There we go, that's near enough. Onto the gland now. Start by putting this in a collet chuck and just holding it on the spigot. Now I can turn it down to thickness. Now to machine the rest of the features, it needs to be held in a 4-jaw chuck. I decided the easiest way to do this would be to mount the spigot in the tailstock, push that up to the 4-jaw chuck, and then carefully close the jaws up so that the gland stays centered. Turning these features is just a very straightforward turning operation. That fits nicely in the cylinder cover. Now I'm going to drill the hole for the piston rod. This will be drilled to the 64th under an eighth. Then I'll countersink the end, because it needs a countersink to take gland packing. And then finally I'll take the Jacob's chuck out of the tailstock and put the 1/8 inch reamer in and then run through with the reamer. The final setup is to put the gland in the collet and hold it vertically in the collet block. You'll notice there's a sacrificial washer under the gland. That's so I can drill through and not drill into the collet. I've got a bit of 1/8 silver steel in the chuck, and I'm just using this to check that the gland is centered and it's aligned as even as I can to drill the 2 fixing holes. Now I can drill the 2 bolt holes that secure the gland in place. These are 7BA clearance holes. Right, after a bit of filing, which I didn't video because filing is boring and I hate it and it's far too fiddly to try to video, you get the completed cylinder end cover that looks like this. You'll notice I've used small headed 7BA bolts. They're 7BA bolts with an 8BA head on them. I think they look far more in keeping with the small size of this engine. That's it for this video. Next time I'll be tackling the box bed. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks again. See you next time.